The next comment comes from Sample Hunter in response to Easter Noodling first exploration of the Roland S-330 video I did in good God, long ago, April 2020. And Sample Hunter writes, by the way, to select another patch you can just say on part A, which is already set to MIDI channel 1 on your keyboard, instead of moving the cursor to the patch column. This way you can easily step through all patches, including the second bank with the plus or minus buttons, or via MIDI program change. Parts B stroke to H are only useful if you want to play different patches independently on multiple channels or layered on the same channel. The mouse is handy but not mandatory, and way too expensive to buy afterwards. I never had one for my S330 and did a lot of sampling and editing. A monitor is highly recommended if you want to edit the sounds or do sampling though, but if you just use play mode like on stage, it works very well without it. You don't necessarily need to do a boot up from the utility disk. You can also just boot directly from the S330 sound disk you want to load, which saves a bit of time. The utility disk is only needed if you want to record new samples, use utilities, or import sounds from the W30 or the S50, S550 discs. Well, good bit of information there. Basically, thank you for the tips. I've used the cursor keys to use the sampler, and when I don't have the mouse plugged in. But you're right, the mouse does make it easier, and the screen makes it extremely easier, because you can't edit this stuff on the. Although all the functionality exists to edit the samples on the device itself, it's incredibly painful. The screen makes that process much more usable. In fact, I would actually say with all the samplers that don't have some sort of TFT graphical display, if you don't have a screen, you're basically up the creek without a paddle. But thank you for the information, very much appreciated, and move forward on that basis. Thank you very much. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. Next one comes from Tautog. Again, in response to the death of the Kronos. There's going to be a number of comments about the death of the Kronos video I did in December 21. And Tautog writes, I contacted Sweetwater, and they confirmed that Kronos is now officially dead, and whatever is out there is the last of them, so grab yourself a bargain. I got a new Kronos about 6 months ago, and I did because the Nautilus has some new sounds, but it just isn't a Kronos. So I don't know if I'm happy I now have an instant vintage keyboard, or sad that I have a dead product. Don't feel either. The internals of the Kronos were rather old, so my gut says Korg must have something new in the pipeline. The development of the new flagship synth. Well, I mean, bottom line is that was another official source that confirmed the Kronos is indeed dead. I checked the Korg website this morning when I wrote this reply. Now, the Kronos has definitely disappeared now, but the point I wrote the reply, the Kronos is no longer listed on the US website. Sorry, on Korg.com, but it was on the US website. And I think that's just a timing difference between the various websites being updated. Different companies have different policies and how they sort of ripple the updates out. I don't think it matters when you bought your Kronos. In fact, it is the fact really that you have bought a Kronos. Kronos is not vintage, it's classic. As I said in the video, if Korg follow the form, they will continue to support the platform for several years after they've discontinued it, with updates and spares before these start to be withdrawn. And they did this. This is the classic Korg, which is kind of what puts them above some of the other manufacturers in terms of they actually sell the spares and perform updates for the platforms after they discontinued the actual platform, whereas companies like Roland definitely recently haven't. I am going to make a video, and I said this in this, I haven't got around to doing it. It's probably because the Kronos is not here, it's in storage. And that's one of the things about me having to make videos at the moment, is I have to kind of bring the keyboard here, go to storage, get the keyboard, bring it here, and then sort of lay out all the stuff I want to do. So it's far more planned than organic. So if I want to do some videos on the Kronos, I need to sort of like lay out a number of videos that I want to do on the Kronos, and then bring the Kronos back, and other than playing it, of course, and then film those videos, so then the Kronos can then go back to storage, and I can bring something else here to do video work on. So I said I was going to make a video about cloning the hard drive. It apparently is not difficult to clone the hard drive on the Kronos. So I've also followed a blog recently about a YouTuber upgrading the motherboard on the Kronos. The key issue they have is the 32-bit kernel for the machine, and as we start to go 64-bit, that might be another reason for the withdrawal of the Kronos, because it's only 32-bit and can only address a maximum of well, technically it's 3.5 gig of RAM, but most manufacturers sort of kind of limit the upper limit to 3 gig of RAM. And I suspect whatever they bring out is probably going to be a little bit more hungry and require a 64-bit operating system. What I'd like to see in the next machine is an external video feed. I'd like to be able to put it up on the contents of the screen up onto a monitor at eye level. And while you're playing, that's not really a feature. You can use that. When you're actually sitting in a studio, it's really nice to be able to put that up onto a monitor so that you can actually, watch what's going on without having to keep doing that, which hurts the back of the neck. Much the same kind of concept that a lot of the old samplers did, where they had an RGB or a VGA output. And the other thing I'd like to see, which I noticed in this comment, was I'd like to see some sort of plug-out framework added to the sort of Korg line for classic Korg synthesizers, and emulation. Well, we'll see what happens. Interesting comment though.